Morning, everyone. Good morning again. This is Michael Malitsky with Great Lakes Aikido. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Kay, for moderating. Thank you, Freitag Sensei, for the warm-ups. Let's bow. So, last few months, traditional practice has been somewhere between destroyed and suspended. So we have to sit back and think what Aikido practice was, what are we unable to do, what can we do instead? One of the defining features of Aikido practice is training with a partner, with an uke. And that's the exact thing that most of us have lost. I see some of us have partners, but most of us don't. Many of us don't have access to a dojo, but that's secondary. It's really the lack of uke. So we have to figure out how to train by ourselves. And now we sit back and think, when we start training, we start by learning steps to the kata. And the very first few days, it doesn't matter if you have uke or not, you're just trying to learn the 1, 2, 3s. But then for some time, you're using your uke, and hopefully your uke is senior to you and they're actually teaching you and helping you learn, and you're learning kata. But then a point comes when you really have to, you don't have a choice, you have to start learning yourself. You have to start teaching yourself, you have to start training yourself. Having an uke at that point is great, but the role of uke will change slightly from a teacher to a feedback device. And I don't mean to dehumanize anybody, but somebody who will helpfully give you feedback. Now we don't have an uke, how do we get feedback? And I've seen people train with weights, all kinds of gadgets. Amazon kindly brought me a box of bungee cords, and these are great. So what can we do? We can't do technique. We can do movement like Aikitaiso, which is great. We can also step back and analyze, or try to analyze the quality of our movement and see if we can make it better and more efficient. So bungee cords, athletic bands, possibly old yoga pants, anything, really anything stretchy will serve for this purpose, because this will provide constant feedback. This is not meant for strength training or conditioning of any kind, strictly an information device, something to give you feedback. You can really, depending on your MacGyver skills, you can rig up something similar anywhere. All you really need is something stretchy and something solid to hook onto. For example, I'm in my garage, I have a propane tank as my anchor. I can also hook onto the door, you can hook onto the legs of furniture, couches. If you have a partner, they can be your anchor. So really, the world is your oyster. But let's think of what we can do here. For example, simple movements, bringing your hands to your center. Myriad of applications where maybe somebody grabbed your hand, katate dori, barote dori. Maybe you're trying to reach for the tanto in your belt, any number of things. This is one of the founding movements of Aikido, right? Very common. How do we do this? Which part of our body is making this happen? So here's a feedback device. And I start trying to do this movement. Maybe I need a little more resistance here, but this will work. And after 10, 20 repetitions, I start feeling I'm really doing this with my bicep. A lot of this. And you will see, especially in beginners, you will see a lot of this kind of movement. So maybe you need a little more resistance there, grab a shorter band. And now I'm really starting to feel it. What can I change? This way, this way. No, now I'm really feeling it in my back, and my bicep is still working. It's really, this is human nature. We want to use big muscles that we possess and somehow are accustomed to using on a daily basis. Is there a better way to do this? Maybe with the curling movement, maybe with the wrist. Now I'm feeling the load spread more evenly along my arm. Now let's think if an uke was grabbing me, this type of movement, pretty, in terms of physics, this is a really big lever that I'm trying to move. If I use my shoulder, even bigger. This would be pretty easy for somebody to stop. Not to mention big muscles firing, easy to detect. Now, this movement, this, your fingers curling in. Everything's happening inside your wrist. Harder to detect, but more importantly, uke that's grabbed your forearm can't stop this movement. And now I'm feeling completely different things. Now I can work on my posture. And then my shoulders, knees relaxed, tailbone tucked in, and maybe as I do this, breathe out. Now I just felt everything settle into my back. I'll turn so you guys can see on the other side. This movement. This is where I started. Straighten out, head on my shoulders, tail tucked in, knees relaxed. I'm going to curl my fingers in and breathe out. I'm feeling everything settling in my middle and lower back. And this is so much easier. So those of you who have something stretchy, give it a shot. Those of you who have uke, your uke can serve this purpose. Uke, though, try to be as consistent and light as possible. Your job is not to stop, your job is not to teach in this case, but to be an almost inanimate feedback object. Then, of course, the natural progression is, in our training, at least, we have a set of techniques when you're grabbed by two people from two sides. So you really can't move into one of them because the other one's going to keep you in place. So I have two of these. Here are my two uke. And I have to somehow regain control of my arms so I can do something. This is it. This is where, if you go back to inefficient movement, you're really going to start feeling it. And you can see, just the way I'm doing it, this would be really easy for an attacker to stop. Breathe out, fix your posture, relax your knees, curl the fingers in. There it is. And you should really be feeling the effort translating from your biceps, from your shoulders, into the back, into the muscles of the lower back. Anybody has any questions or comments, unmute yourselves and holler, please.
I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anybody has any questions, definitely unmute yourselves. None so far. Nobody has any raised hands. Okay.
Excellent. Oh, I see Dan came prepared. Awesome. Dan, can you share with the group what kind of bands you're using?
These are left over from a variety of different physical therapy engagements. They are
There we go.
medical, plastic, or rubber, different tensions. You can get them at, on Amazon, at Target, at your physical therapist's office.
Perfect.
Yeah, they're like the TheraBands, right? Those are great. Those are excellent.
Not name brand, but yes.
Perfect. Okay. So let's look at a different movement. We need lots of times when we need to raise our hands. One hand, other hand, both hands. Maybe somebody grabs us from behind. Maybe we're raising our hand while doing Sokumaderi Minage, whatever it is. This is part of a lot of technique. Again, human nature, something like this. You remember the guy drinking beer in the commercial and being bumped on the elbow? A lot of us do this naturally. There it is. So I have my bungee cord hooked onto my garage door. You can literally, again, hook it onto anything as long as it is lower than my arm. And I can really feel it, and I'm having to use my body to really raise it. One more problem, the band's getting in the way. It's ending up under my arm. So I start playing with this. First thing I learn is I have to keep my elbows in. That way my band does not get in the way. And the lines of movement, the lines of force are more efficient now. Still a lot of effort in the shoulder. So again, we look for a curling movement, rotational movement. My hand came up to about the same level. So let's see, curling this one, raising this one. A whole lot more effort required to do this than just roll things up. Now, everybody's got a cup of coffee because it's too early for a beer everywhere. This is the way you drink your coffee. This is the way you raise your arm. This is the way you raise your weapon. This is also the way mostly you would reach up to scratch your head. Much more efficient. Overemphasize the curling, and then it will become more of a habit. Pay attention to where the line of my bungee cord is. Well outside my body, not in the way of anything. So if I were, for example, trying to raise up and step under, if this is my uke, if I were to raise up and step under, and have plenty of room. This way, I'd be in my own. I'd get in the way of myself. Okay. Again, I can switch. Do the same thing on the other side. I can do two of these. I find out that I'm asymmetrical somehow. There. Now we go back and correct posture. And on my shoulders, many of us computer workers have a natural propensity turtlenecking. And then the shoulders, hips under, knees relaxed, breathe out. Nothing to it. Whole lot less effort and very different effort than trying to do this. Okay. Again, anybody have any questions, just holler. Another one from the same scenario. So we covered bringing hands in this way. Different techniques, sometimes we want our hands turned over. Maybe somebody grabs you from behind, you want to bring your hands in front. If you ever, I'm sure everybody's practiced this, this is next to impossible with a dedicated uke, so we end up wriggling under somehow when we first start learning. Let's see if we can make this more efficient. Grab your thumb, rotate it. Point the thumb at your navel. This way. Fix the posture. Breathe out. The hand is behind you. Rotate. Rotate. And suddenly, again, those of you who have uke, you can test. Those of you who don't, slowly, lots of repetitions, and try to feel what's happening in your body, which parts, which muscles you're using. Are you trying to do this? I'm feeling my shoulder get stuck. My shoulder blade, actually. Try to let it go. Try to let it go. Move the thumb. What can I use that would telegraph less, that would be more efficient, require less power? Here. Here. Any questions? Does anybody have any particular movements they're usually stuck with? Nobody's stuck. Good. Same thing applies to, where's my prop? You can practice foot movement as well. Think about, just step back. Think about just this. This is not even Aikido. This is just part of walking, right? But in Aikido, we start in Hanmi stance. We may have to step forward. We may have to step back. We may have to simply bring our feet together. I am sure at some point everybody's gotten stuck in not being able to move this back foot. So you can use the same thing. I just have a whole bunch of bungee cords stretched here. Something going to pull back on my foot. What am I, and now I'm trying to analyze, what am I using? Well, I find that I have to shift my weight forward. I find that I'm using my glutes. If I do this enough, I find that the inside of my thigh is getting tired. Sorry about that. I sat on my camera. So how can I make this more efficient? First of all, fix the posture. That should take care of the weight distribution. Now, how do I move the leg? And hanmi, do I just drag it up and then turn it? Do I turn it first and then move it up? Do I do something in between? Same as with the hand. Rotational movement. Somewhere something has to rotate. This toe has to rotate forward as it's coming up. Now with my resistance, a lot different. A lot different. If I fix my posture to boot, no problem. No jerking. And those of you with uke, you can do this exercise a little differently. If you have uke, kneel behind you and hold your ankle very, very lightly. This is very effective resistance mechanism. Can you move your foot at all or not? Okay, you should let go as soon as that foot gets going. Very, very lightly. Fix it.
So Sensei, I have a question. This is Kay. Where in your body are you feeling the tension from the band or the resistance? And what is your goal to change, to make it your whole body and not just the foot or the arm? Or how do you notice that tension in your body?
Are you talking about the last one specifically or more generally?
Generally.
Generally, going backwards through your questions, how do I notice it? If I have a skilled uke, they can help me find it. Obviously, I don't have one, so lots of repetition. We take a simple movement, as simple as possible. Try to isolate one movement. This, for example. Repeat ad nauseum until something starts getting tired, and really listen to your body and try to figure out which bit of your body is trying to make this happen. If you think of folks with zero martial arts experience, their first class, you will find they're doing something like this.
Right, yeah.
And you can start there, force yourself to do this, and then what's happening? Well, I can feel my bicep. This is not terribly, no. Now what happens if I let go of my bicep? I haven't moved anything anywhere except my shoulders up.
Right.
Drop the shoulder, try again. Okay, now my bicep is stiff. Let go of it. I still haven't gone anywhere. There aren't that many structures here available, so if you have instruction available to you, great. If not, start playing with it and see what comes out.
So you're sort of looking for other areas to use in your body to move that, make that motion, right? So you're not just doing the typical.
In general, I'm looking to get rid of using common large muscles, biceps, triceps, legs.
Excellent.
Things, these are slow firing, especially on me. I'm very slow by nature. They're very big, and these are very large levers, so very easy for an uke to stop.
Right.
I want smaller things, more obscure body parts moving. For example, this. Maybe these movements. Go ahead, stop me from doing that.
Right.
This. Now, obviously, this isn't enough to actually perform an Aikido technique, but you start here and you see where it goes. Ultimately, the bicep will get involved, but hopefully little and late.
Okay.
to a small degree and late in the game. Does that make
Good.
sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you. I appreciate that. And there's another
also-
question from Caroline. She has her hand up.
Caroline, hang on one second. I have one more comment. I want to get my back involved as much as possible. For example, this exercise I did, oops. So simulating two people grabbing morotidori. If I straighten out, if I have good posture and I use my hands correctly, or what I believe is correct, I really feel the effort coming here to the small of my back, mid back, mid and
Right.
lower back,
Right.
which is very, very, I think, uncommon. That is not a common way to use our bodies. So I feel it's easy to feel when it starts happening.
Mhm.
And that is not something anybody can detect. And even if, for a classic couch potato, the back is so much stronger than the arms, you have an inherent advantage. So those are things I'm looking for.
Okay.
Caroline.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask if I'm understanding this correctly in the distinction between using big muscles and little muscles. Part of it is that the power movements of the big muscles are easy for uke to detect and then actively resist, but the smaller finesse movements are harder for them to detect, and so you get a little extra time. Is that part of it as well? Maybe I didn't express that very well, but
No, I think I see where you're going with that. I'm not sure time is a factor.
okay.
It may come into play because if my movement is refined, I can make things happen before my uke realizes they happen.
That's what I was imagining.
I think it's a smaller part of the equation, and the bigger one is just being able to make them happen, period. A human will react instinctively. We as Aikido practitioners have developed a lot of habits, many of them bad. We're conditioned to react certain ways to certain things. But again, if you think of somebody with zero experience walking into the dojo, you tell them, grab my hand, what's the very next thing you're going to say? No, not this way. But they have some instinctive idea of how to do things.
Mhm.
If somebody grabs your hand, you start moving, they will instinctively resist. They will maybe instinctively counter you. If you have a Aikido practitioner, maybe they've conditioned it out of themselves. Maybe not. But because of that instinct being present, I don't think time is so much an issue. I think it's just the ability to perform the movement versus not, versus being stopped. If my movement is efficient, if my movement is more efficient than yours, it doesn't matter if your instinct is faster than mine. I'll still get there.
Hi. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, it's 10:15, which is, I think, the official stop time. I had one more movement that I was planning to show, if folks have like 10 minutes to hang around.
Sounds great, if everybody's
Okay,
willing.
I'll take the silence as a yes.
That would be awesome.
For those of you who are wondering when duct tape comes into this, it is now. I have a small sand weight taped to the end of an old bokken. And this is possibly the exercise that started this line of inquiry. You stand in Chudan. Basic thing we want to do is raise our bokken. I can't go all the way up. I have a relatively low ceiling, but bokkens, until you do 1,000 cuts, it's pretty light. So nobody we almost never think about how we raise it. So challenge yourself. Put some weight on it. Again, if you have a nuke, they can just stand there and put their pinky on the end of it. Just that much weight, that's going to be enough. So this is already challenging. You can already just stand in Chudan. You're going to know that you're not holding things correctly. For example, I'm really feeling this in my right elbow, so I really should realign. Now, how do I raise this? Most people straight up and down. You can see my body going up and down. You can see the bokken basically swiveling along with my shoulders, going straight up. In terms of physics, this is now a 5-foot lever, give or take. Normally, there's nothing on the end, so no problem, we don't notice. But it's hugely inefficient. So here, and you do this again, you do this 1,000 times, you're really going to notice. So let's change this. Raising our hand up, we started curling. Same thing. Pop the tip, pop the tip, pop the tip with your hip if you can. Now, we're not swinging a clock, we're really pushing through the bokken this way. Instead of up and down with the arms, and push through the tip. You can do this exercise with any bokken. If you have a heavy one for suburi, that's great. If you have a regular one, you can still feel it. With the weight though, it's a whole lot easier to feel this. Pop it, pop it. And it'll be a lot easier to raise up. Does that make sense?
I see thumbs up. Great, excellent.
Okay, that's my presentation for this morning. So unless there are questions. No questions.
No questions.
Bow out. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you very much, Sensei. I appreciate it very much. Great class.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I was wondering if anyone would find it valuable for me to share a couple of photos of something we rigged up in our basement. It's a 2x4, a couple of hooks, but it's really useful for suspending these bands from, in the event you don't have an umpteen-pound propane tank. I don't know if anyone would find that.
Or that you could drill holes in your walls.
Valuable. But I took a few pictures. We've both been through physical therapy, and so we installed this in order to do some exercises at home. It's been ridiculously useful during this quarantine period. So yeah, then just give me a moment and I'll throw those in the chat for anyone.
I don't know if you can add files, to be honest.
Well, we're about to find out, aren't we?
Well, if not, perhaps you could email them to Kay and she could distribute to the group.
Yeah, I can try. I don't know if I have everybody's email address. You might have to all email me.
There we go.
I have some of yours.
There, I think the files are coming through. You guys will have to click on them. But.
And if you need to contact me for anything, I'll put my email address on the chat. It says post on Facebook page ? Oh, Craig Rice was asking that.
Yeah, that would be a great idea if only I were on Facebook.
That can be a challenge.
Yeah.
But if you send them to me, I could post them.
Okay.
So I put my email, my Aikido email. So it looks like a weird email, but it's my Aikido email.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's great. So I just thought that those might be interesting because this was fairly easy to create in our basement. It didn't require a lot of infrastructure. So if, in case that's useful to anyone thinking to do something similar at home.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. And hope to see people in the upcoming classes. And thank you all very, very much. This was great. And thank you, Sensei. Appreciate it to both Senseis.
Thank you, everybody.
Take
All
care.
right.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
rest
you,
of your
guys.
weekend.
Yeah. Ciao.